Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today. I'm Emma Porter, Hikvision BDM, and I look after the West Midlands region. So I'm here to talk to you today about our DeepinMind technology and our X series NVRs. And what I hope to give you is an overview of the technology features, but also some real world examples of where this technology can and has been deployed, so you can explore opportunities for it within your own business. I'm joined today by Dan Hawkins, pre-sale specialist, who will be taking you through a live product demo following this presentation, and then we'll end with a short survey and an opportunity to win some lovely prizes. Now, as we go through this session, if you've got any questions, please send them in to answers.uk@hikvision.com, and we've got our product manager, Michael Dye, ready and waiting to answer these. But we just ask, please bear in mind, we sometimes get inundated, so it can take us up to 24 hours to come back to you. So during this session, we'll be looking at three main features of DeepinMind technology. So that's false alarm reduction, facial recognition, and behaviour analysis. Now, I'll go into more detail on these topics as we move through the presentation, but the key thing that I want you to take away from today is that DeepinMind technology gives you as integrators and installers the ability to work smarter and be more time efficient and offer your end users lots of added value. So now we all know traditional CCTV, it's been captured and stored hours and hours of footage, making your NVR and your hard drives work really hard. There's around 85% of that footage that isn't used or useful, and if an incident occurs, it takes the viewer lots of time, lots of man hours sifting through to pinpoint the event and extract the exact footage. It just isn't time efficient. What deep learning technology gives you is the ability to put parameters in place to only extract that useful data, so that 15% that you need, and you can use that technology to look for event triggers and filter by person or vehicle in the footage, which is a far more efficient way of working. So we're going to start with false alarm reduction. So remember what I said about the 15% of usable data, for usable footage. Our DeepinMind series of NVRs uses deep learning algorithms to detect targets and then classify them as human, vehicle or others, reducing false alarms and making your system more efficient. This means when you're looking through footage to find an event, you can be targeted. The technology's already sifted out all the irrelevant information. It leaves you only with true alarms, and this is also really important for ARCs taking in events. It's a layer of filtering that's already there. So I'm going to play you a short video. You'll see an intrusion box that's set up to detect humans. So as we watch, a person enters the scene, walking towards the intrusion box. He crosses the line and an alert is activated. You've got a pop-up in IBMS 4200 there. In the next clip, we've got the same scene, but you'll notice there's movement in the lower bottom corner. There's a tree moving and that's changing the scene. Because the system's been set up to only detect humans, there's no alert activated, so there's no pop-up, the information's filtered. Here we've got a different scenario. It's a car park, and using the same false alarm reduction, you'll see the scene is changing due to headlights coming into the car park, but because of those deep learning algorithms, they're filtered out and there's no activation. So false alarm reduction, it can be so useful in so many scenarios and applications, be it construction, office buildings, residential car parks, they can all utilise this technology. So let's take, for example, you're looking after a construction site. It's been locked up for the night, but it's in a rural location. There's a monitoring station, and that's set up to take alerts in the evening. But the monitoring station, they don't need to be alerted if a family of foxes stroll through the site or if there's rabbits skipping about. But what they do need to know is if a human is detected, so they can react accordingly. So another key feature of deep learning technology is facial recognition. So we've seen a real increase in demand for facial recognition technology, and our product portfolio, from cameras to access control and intercom solutions, it's ideal for so many scenarios. And what the pandemic has done is made us really, really aware of touch points, and facial recognition can remove some of those. So how does our DeepinMind NVR know what a face is? Well, you can see on this image on the slide, there are white pinpoints on this gentleman's face, and it's these key facial features that build up a data model for what a face looks like, and the NVR then uses this learned model data to detect and capture faces through images and videos, and it can start to do some really smart things for you. So there are so many examples of real-world facial recognition use, and touchless access is really, really key. So using facial recognition for access control just for cards and readers. So for example, it would make it much easier if you're entering a building and you're carrying a really heavy box. There's no fumbling around in pockets or to try and find a lanyard or putting the box down. You can just walk straight up to the door, display your face, and you can enter. Or perhaps you've had one of those crazy mornings, we all have them. You're trying to leave the house, chase the kids to school, and then you've got to head to work, but you've left your access control card on your kitchen table. So rather than having to return home so you're late, or having someone at work let you in or create a new card, that removes all of that. You have your face, you can enter the building. So another key feature of deep learning technology is behaviour analysis. So this is where our deep learning algorithms can trigger alarms that are based on behaviours, different behaviours that are detected in a scene. So the Behaviour Analysis NVR can detect when a hard hat is being worn, or it can look at different behaviours such as sleep detection or mobile phone detection, street behaviours such as people gathering or falling down detection, and it also has a people counting function. So we're going to look at a couple of those features and we'll explore them further. So first up, we've got hard hat detection. So wearing correct PPE, it's a legal requirement on construction or industrial and manufacturing sites, in hazardous areas, and hard hat detection will determine whether a worker is wearing a hard hat, and it will trigger an alarm when he or she isn't. So as you can see in this video, we have our construction workers, they're filling a skip, going across the scene, and a couple of those workers, they're not wearing a hard hat. The system is alerting and it's capturing footage on the left hand side, and each clip can then be reviewed and played back at a later stage. You can see them there. And next up we have, he's a construction worker and very blatantly removes his hard hat in the scene. And you can see that too creates an alert, and then that's stored again on the left hand side, so that can be played back and reviewed at a later stage. So here you can see how the smart search function works. So you can see where all the clips of all the different events with people not wearing a hard hat are stored. You can click on each one, you can review them, you can play them back, and you can export the footage as you need it. Now let's have a look at some of our other important features of street behaviour. So you can see from the images on this slide, we can look at people gathering detection. So perhaps there's a crowd forming in a public space and that needs to be monitored. We can look at people loitering detection, so that's really useful in a car park or to monitor activity at an ATM. We can look at violent motion detection and react to a situation perhaps before a fight breaks out. And we can look at running detection, which is ideal in, say, a shopping centre scenario for loss prevention. Now, Dan's going to demo people gathering, people loitering, some of those behaviours very shortly, so you'll be able to see what they look like, how to configure the NVR, and then what it looks like in Hike Central VMS, okay? So another really important feature is our fall down detection. So this is where our deep learning NVR will trigger a real-time alarm to detect a person who suddenly falls down. So as you can see in this short video, we have a man, he enters the scene and he takes a tumble, and instantly there is an alert, there's a pop-up, there's a clip to play back so someone can react to the event. There are lots of scenarios where this is a really, really key feature. For example, if you're installing in an assisted living or nursing home with really vulnerable residents, having this function enabled will alert staff to any trips or sudden falls immediately. So throughout this presentation, I've been talking about specifically our DeepinMind NVRs, and here this is our product family. I don't want to dwell too much on part codes. Please ask your distributor if you need any help, or if you're a VAS partner, speak to your BDM. But the key points to take away, that all the DeepinMind recorders, they start with an I, which stands for intelligent, so IDS dash rather than the usual DS dash pattern. And they all have NXI following the number of channels in the part code too. So on this slide, you'll see from left to right, we've sorted our NVRs based on hard drives from the MVS, which has a built-in 2 terabytes, all the way across to 24. Now, just to touch on the NVS recorders, because you might not be familiar with those, these have a short-term storage and they're 12 volts, so they're ideal for use in applications such as rapid deployment mobile towers. And it's also worth noting that they have a single intelligence, so you have to select exactly which one you need. So if you want behaviour analysis, you use BA as part of the part code, facial rec F in the part code, and perimeter protection is S in the part code. Also sorted from top to bottom, we've got the X series DeepinMind recorder, and unlike the MVS, you can switch from the 3 key functions. So all those are there, you can switch between perimeter protection, facial rec and video structuralization. If you're looking at behaviour analysis in particular though, you need to make sure that you have the BA series as part of the part code. So now I'm going to hand over to Dan and my colleagues who are in the car park downstairs, and they're going to show you a live demo of some of this technology for you.
Thanks, Emma, for that great presentation. My name's Dan Hawkins. I'm part of the pre-sales team here at Hikvision. So as Emma's mentioned, we've got some colleagues who are downstairs in the car park. We're going to be running through some of the analytics that we have down there, or up here on the BA NVR. We're going to be looking at loitering, we're going to be looking at running, and we're going to be looking at people gathering detection. We're going to be using Hike Central to show you what the pop-up events look like as well. So if we move over to our NVR and Hike Central webpage, as you can see, we've got Hike Central running here. If I bring up the NVR webpage and then click on the live view, this is the view we've got of the car park downstairs. So it's not an ideal setup, but the idea is to show you some of those analytics working in real time. So I'll move on to configuration first of all. This is where we do all our setup and config of all of the analytics and what have you. I'm going to go into System and check our VCA configuration. This is the engine, so this is the system that is deep inside the device itself. We've got behavioural analysis set here. We've got perimeter protection and not wearing hard hat detection. In this instance, we want to use behavior analysis. I won't save it because it will try and reboot the NVR. We don't have time for that. But just to let you know, that's where we configure which engine that the system is going to be running on. We've got events here as well. Now, in events, we have basic events such as motion detection, things like that. We've also got our smart events below that. And our smart events is where you find things like intrusion, line crossing, region exit, region entrance, and loitering. But we have a loitering detection in smart events, but it's not the same as the behavioural analysis loitering detection that we have in the VCA. VCA is where we keep all those behavioural analysis analytics, if you like. We also have our face capture, hard hat, and multi-target type detection in there as well. But in this instance, we're going to be looking at our behavioural analysis subtypes. We have one camera attached to that NVR. It's just a 4 megapixel camera, nothing special about that. We're going to enable those local behavior analysis. Now this means that the NVR is going to be doing all the legwork. So we have the subtypes. We have 2 subtypes here. Work behavior analysis, which includes absence or sleep on duty. We have people overstay, which can also be called loitering. We have number of people exception detection, so we can, if too many people are in an area, we can set off an event for that. And using mobile phone, so simply the detection of somebody having their arm up, we can detect that. Below that, we have street behavior analysis. So this is people gathering detection, people running, and violent motion detection. People falling down, and as Emma alluded to, this is good for places like care homes or hospitals, that kind of environment where somebody falling over can have some dire consequences. So we're going to start with people overstay detection, and this is where we're going to be looking at somebody who is loitering in a particular area or just sort of mooching about around that cone area that we've got in our field of view. If I select the green plus button, I'm going to give my rule a name, and we're just going to call that loitering. Hopefully I've spelt that right. We've got the rule type, and in there you can see absent, sleep on duty. We can use people overstay, again loitering. Now I'm going to set this down for 5 seconds. Because it's a demonstration, we don't need to set the alarm up for like 10-20 seconds because I can't talk for that long. We're going to enable the rule, and we've got here mode, arbitrary and single person. Now arbitrary is for when you want to detect more than one person loitering in that area, and single person, obviously, if there is only one person in that area, that's when we'll try and catch them. overlay rule frame and overlay target frame. Now we click these so that we can identify the person on the snapshot of the NVR by a bounding box around the target. You'll see what I mean when we get the pop-up notification in Hike Central. I'm going to draw my area of detection on here. Let's start again. There's my area, and then I'll save that particular area. Now it says save succeeded, so hopefully that has saved. Arming schedule, I want it to do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then my alarm linkage, so this is the effect of the event. I want an audible warning so that the guys, Matt, Michael, downstairs, they can see when we've had an event downstairs. The alarm, the NVR will beep, and then we've got notify surveillance center, and this will cause Hike Central to show me that pop-up event alarm. So that's definitely saved. I'll double click it again to make sure I have saved it, and then we'll go back to our rule, and then everything's as I set, 5 seconds, single person, people over, say. Save it again just to be sure. Now we're over to Hike Central. Now we've just got the real-time view of that car park downstairs. We've got our detection area. Now here's my colleague Matt, who's wandered into that detection area. And he's loitering around in that detection area. And then hopefully after a few seconds we get our pop-up. Now we've turned off video detection, we've turned off the video transmission just because it would take too much time for it to transmit across the wireless link that we've got all the way out in the car park up here. But as you can see, the snapshot has got the bounding box around Matt and the target area overlay on the camera. So we can see he's wandered into that area. He was loitering around for about 3 seconds. Once it got to the 4th second, it triggered that alarm. Again, we can add in there a description of the event. We can put in any notes that we want and set the alarm priority and acknowledge that event. So I'll clear that event and then go back to our web page for our NVR. This time we're going to have a look at people gathering detection. Now people gathering detection is where we look at people that are getting too close to one another in a particular area. We've set the threshold to 2 meters so that if people get within 2 meters of each other in a particular area, that's when we will trigger the event or the alarm. If I set my rule name here as gathering and my rule type as people gathering detection, I'll make sure that I enable it. So you can have up to 8 rules. So if I continue to click the plus button, I'll get 8 particular rules that I can add throughout my event. The duration for the amount of time that the people are too close together is going to stay at 3 seconds. And sensitivity. Now sensitivity is quite a key one. I'm going to turn this up to 80. In this instance, the camera's not in an ideal position, but if you did have it in an ideal position, for example, and somebody walked through the zone with an umbrella on their head or over their head, you might not be able to see the full figure of a human form. This may cause the device to not register that there's a person there. Or if they're holding an umbrella, say over 2 people trying to huddle together to keep dry. That's why we turn the sensitivity up. The alarm interval is the amount of time before it will rearm. So 25 seconds after the first event, the system will rearm. We've got overlay rule frame and overlay target frame, again, so that we can see those bounding boxes. And then the number of people threshold. So this is the key part. This is where we set how many people it will take before it triggers the alarm. In this instance, 5 people can move together, they can group together and be within 2 meters. And when a 6th person enters that zone, that's when the alarm will trigger. Now we've only got, I think, 3 people downstairs in the car park. So we'll have 2 people down there, and when the 3rd person enters the area, that's when it should trigger the alarm. So I'll draw my area and then save. Threshold will turn down to 2. So what I'm saying there is that once a 3rd person enters that area, that should trigger the alarm. Then we'll move on to alarming schedule. Make sure the alarm is set. So what you'll notice here is that the menus are the same. No matter what analytic that I try to configure, you'll notice that the setup or the configuration for all of those and the rules is almost identical. The only thing that will change is duration and threshold and sensitivity. This makes it really, really easy to be able to configure those particular VCAs. Alarm linkage will check a little audible warning so that they know that they've done it, and notify surveillance center so that Hike Central will provide us with that important pop-up. It did say save succeeded, so I'm happy. Gathering, duration 3 seconds, sensitivity's up, number of people is 2. So I'll hit save again, head over to Hike Central, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, after all of that, my colleagues will start to move into the detection area. So there we go, we've got Matt and Michael, who's our third. So as you see, they'll start to move in closer and closer, but they're not setting off the event alarm at the moment. And as they get closer and closer into the center, once they breach that 2 meter rule, I think Arctic might need to move in just a little bit more. Once they get to within, what did I set it to, 3 to 5 seconds or so, we should see the event pop up within Central. I still think they might be a bit far away. If we can get them to just go a little bit closer, I'll do it using the power of thought. There we go, there's my pop-up. Again, we've turned off the video, but we've got pictures. So we get the picture of the event, and we get the picture of the end of the event, and we also get a bounding box with the red box around the 3 of them, identifying who they are and what they were doing gathered together. Eventually they got close enough. So that's people gathering detection. I'm going to close that one off, and we're going to do people running detection. Now this is my favorite one of the demonstration. We're going to running. So the rule name we've called running, and the rule type we're going to set in the drop down menu as people running detection. I'm going to enable that to make sure that the analytic is available. And the duration we're going to leave on 3 seconds. Now, as I say, it's not set up ideally to detect what people would be running across there, but we should be able to see Matt running for at least 3 seconds through that particular area. Multiple persons mode and single persons mode. Multiple person, again, is good for when people are being maybe chased or there's a group of people or a gang. And single person, just so we can identify when one person has moved either direction across the field of view. In this instance, we're going to use single person, and we're going to turn the sensitivity all the way up, just so we get a really good read. Overlay again, so that we get those bounding boxes. Make sure everything's set there, and set my detection area. So now I've set my detection area, I'll save the thing. I see it says save succeeded. Check my alarm schedule is set for today, that's all good, and people running is my event. And my alarm linkage, audible warning again so they know it's worked downstairs, and notify the surveillance center so that Hike Central again provides us with that lovely pop-up so we can see. Now I'll check the rule, everything's set there, save it again just so I'm sure, and we'll go into Hike Central. And now we're going to get Matt to run across the scene, hopefully behind the cone, like a newborn baby gazelle prancing through the savannah. Oh, it's Michael this time, that was a surprise. There we go, so straight away we get the pop-up. Again, we've disabled the video, but we get the pictures. We've got Michael who's just ran across that detection area. Again, after the event, and then we've got the event itself when it was alerted, and then we've got that snapshot with the bounding box. Again, the description, you can add it in here, set the alarm priority, the type, and add any notes. And if you play back any of these in the notification center or the alarm center, this is where you can offload any of that footage to a USB stick or your local PC for review later on. So I'll go back to the NVR, back to the live view, and that concludes my demonstration for the VCAs. I'm going to hand back over to Emma now. I'd like to thank Matt and Michael and Arctic downstairs in the car park for helping us out with that. Emma's going to go through the Menti survey now. Thanks very much, and see you again.